Hi, I thought I'd put together a couple of videos to teach beginning music theory to stringed, fretted instrument players. So this video and the other ones that I hope to do will be geared toward guitar players, fretted bass players, mandolin players, even ukulele players and banjo players, because the music theory that I'm going to explain really goes back to foundational music theory, which comes from the instrument, the piano. So I'm going to try and keep these short. I've got myself a timer going, but hopefully the way I'm going to explain beginning music theory for fretted stringed instrument players is going to be something that will help you understand not only the theory, but something that I think a lot of instrument players want to do, and that's not always have to hunt down the music or a chord sheet or lead sheet when it comes to figuring out songs that they want to play. So with that, let's begin. Before I do, I'll just very quickly, for guitar players, my guitar's in tune to standard tuning, and so I'll just give you a quick rundown of those notes from the 6th string, the low string, to the 1st string. E, A, string number 5, string number 4, D, number 3, G, string number 2, B, and string number 1, the high string, E. Okay, I mentioned the piano a second ago, and so really, understanding basic music theory, you probably already know some, and that's if you know two things, and that's that the musical notes on a piano are A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And for the purposes of explaining some of this theory, I'm also going to use the Roman numerals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So if you know that music is composed using only these 7 letters in sequence, and they can repeat, so when you get to G over here, the next note after G would be A again, and the cycle starts over. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and likewise the numbers of those particular notes. So music is written in something called a key, which is an arrangement of notes and accompanying chords. And the chords are important to us stringed instrument players because in order to play a song, especially to accompany a soloist or another instrument playing the melody line, we need to know those chords. So each of the musical notes can be associated with a particular key. So we've got the key of A, key of B, and so on to the key of G. Associated as well with each one of those keys, there's a musical scale. A scale is an arrangement of 8 notes that we call an octave. And so we start on the first note in a particular key. So our C scale starts with C and would go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then a C again. The scale for G would be G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then G again. And likewise for A, B, E, F, and so on. So there are chords associated with each of those musical keys. There are 2 types of chords I'm going to talk about in this particular lesson. They are major chords and minor chords. And the reason why I talk about these 2 types of chords, actually there's a third one coming up that I'll explain in just a minute, is that most popular music is written in this way. It's either written in a major key or a minor key, but associated with that respective major or minor is its counterpart. So for every major key, there's an associated minor key. So for every set of major chords associated with a major key, there are accompanying minor chords associated with its companion minor key. Now I know this can be a little bit confusing at the outset, but the reason I'm sort of making a video of this is so you can stop and go back and listen to me explain, because I'm going to try and go through this pretty fast because I'm already about 6 minutes in. So given all of this, why is it important to understand that in terms of being a guitar player, for example, and learning to play a song that you may or may not be familiar with? Well, the way that I've come to understand it, and I think it's a simple way, and so if it's simple enough for me to understand, hopefully others can as well, is something that I call the 1-4-5 rule. That's the 1-4-5 rule. And so by that I mean that for every song written in a particular key, there's going to be sets of chords. And the way to figure out what those chords are is to follow the 1-4-5 rule. And this rule works for both major keys and minor keys. So for major keys, if we look at the notes in the scale for that particular key, the three main chords that we can play in that key are going to follow the 1 note, the 4 note, and the 5 note of that scale. So in a major key, our important chords are going to be the 1 major, the 4 major, and it's a special case for the 5th note corresponding to the 3rd key, or the 3rd chord in that particular key. And that's a type of chord that's called the 7th chord. And I'll explain this in more detail in a minute. But the main thing to get off this particular page of my notes is that both the major keys and the minor keys follow this same simple rule. To figure out the chords in that particular key, you just remember 1, 4, and 5. For major keys, it's going to be the 1 major, the 4 major, and the 5 7th chord. And in minor keys, it's going to be the 1 minor, the 4 minor, and the 5 7th chords. So let's think about a particular example. We'll begin with the simplest musical key, the simplest key to play on any instrument, including the piano, which is where this comes from, and it's the key of C. So in the key of C, our scale would be an octave, or those series of notes from C to the next higher corresponding C. So we've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. So we assign each one of those notes a number so that we know that the C is the 1 note, the E is the 3 note, the A is the 6th note, and the B is the 7th note. And then we start back on 1 again here with the next higher C. So the 3 main chords in the key of C, major, are going to be our C major chord. The 4 chord will be an F major chord, and then the 3rd chord in that key is going to be the 7th, or the 7th of the 5th note, which is a G. So in C major, our 3 main chords are C major, F major, and G7. Now, how do we figure out what's the associated minor key? Because for every major key, we associate a corresponding minor key. Well, it's not C minor. It'd be easy if it were that simple, but it's not. But again, there's an easy way to figure out what the associated minor key is. So how do we figure that out? Well, the associated minor key of any particular key scale is always going to be the 6th note of that key's scale. So for the key of C major, the associated minor key is going to be A minor, because the A is the sixth note of that major key's scale. Now you might have to go back and watch this again to understand, but again, hopefully these are just simple rules to remember. Remember the 1-4-5 rule. Major key, it's going to be major, major, and seventh chord. For a minor key, you figure out the minor key by looking at the sixth note of the major key scale, and then it follows the same rule. So our associated keys for our C key example are C major and A minor. And then it's a simple application of the rules I've just explained to figure out what are the chords in that key of A minor. Well, it follows that same 1-4-5 rule, except now instead of major chord, and seventh chord, we've got minor chords. So the three chords that are associated with the key of A minor are A minor, D minor, and E7. So you have to kind of follow that the C key has a C scale and C chords, but the associated A minor chords come from the A scale, not from the C scale. So that can be a little bit confusing, but if you do it a few times, it becomes a little bit more easy to understand. So that's all I'm going to cover for today, because that's a lot to digest. But I'll just finish quickly again for guitar players to show you that if you're playing a song and it's in the key of C, given what I've just showed you, you should be able to figure out and then hopefully understand that there's 6 chords associated with playing that song in the key of C that you're going to want to know and practice and understand. So in the key of C, we've got, I'll try and do this so you can see my hand a little bit better. You've got C major. You'll have F major and G7. C, F, and G7. The associated minor chords that come from A minor are going to be A minor, D minor, and E7. Now let me just finish up by just playing some random combination of these chords so you get a feel for how they sound together and understand that a song in the key of C, all of those different chords can be made to sound right together, really, no matter the order that you play them in. So I hope you found this helpful. And again, if you have to watch it again, I appreciate that. It takes some little bit of time to understand this, especially if you're not familiar with any other aspects of music theory. But thanks a lot for watching, and I appreciate your time.